welcome again to Mitchy's Stories number 2, the special edition ASMR version. Just kidding. Hey guys, Mitchy's Stories number 2. Here we go. We're going to start with story number 1. This one is The Tree and the Rope. Climbing stories. Okay, so, I want to tell you right now, I'm not afraid of heights. At all. Okay, 0% fear of heights. Because I have this ridiculous, probably over-the-top confidence in my climbing abilities. And it's from when I was a kid. Because, you know, I'm like 5 or 6 years old. And I like climbing trees. We had trees outside of our trailer. There was one out front. And then there was one in back. I would climb all the way to the top. All the way to the top of the tree. And I would actually jump on top of the roof. And not at that age, but a little bit older, I actually gained enough confidence to jump off of the trailer into the grass. And I learned how to do a roll so that it didn't really do as much hurt on my legs and stuff. And it was grass. So, you know, I didn't get super hurt from it either. Even, you know, just landing right on my feet. But that's not what the story's about. But I wanted to bring out that I love climbing, okay? I was a little spider monkey, okay? And I could do it now, okay? If there was a tree out there and you said, hey, go climb that tree, I'm like, no, I'll go climb that tree. I'll have a fun, good old time doing climbing that tree. Love climbing, right? So I'm like 5 years old, 6 years old. One of my earliest friends in the trailer park, they lived in the house that is now gone. It was a really large house, and it probably was one of the first houses, you know, probably the original people that owned the trailer park, I would assume, lived there, maybe. And I believe her name, my first friend ever, was Erica. Very similar age to me. She taught me things as a kid. We were both around the same age, you know, 5, 6 years old, right? She taught me how, you know, we're outside playing, and I'm like, I need a tissue. I'm like, having boogers hanging out, right? And she's like, just use your sleeve. And I'm like, And she, you know... So, yeah, ever since she taught me that, as a kid, I learned, hey, if you need to blow your nose or whatever, you have crap on your nose, you just grab your sleeve and go like this. Yeah, I know, it's gross, right? So, her and me are out playing and stuff and climbing, right? They had this huge tree out there, by the way, a big weeping willow. I mean, this huge weeping willow, craziest thing you ever seen. Guess what? They tore that down now, too. The house is gone, the tree is gone, and it was a freaking weeping, it was... So sad how things change over time. I think it was a crime to cut down that tree. Okay, but I digress. I was climbing a tree, and I don't think it was the weeping willow. It was actually a different tree there. But I climbed the tree. I was really, really high up, right? I fell. And I didn't hit the ground. No. If I had hit the ground from how high I was, I probably would have broken something. No, I didn't hit the ground. A branch broke my fall. Right between my crotch. Wow. Wow, did that hurt. Thinking back, it was horrible. That's my little tree story for you there. And that's just a lead into the more interesting story. Hold out, hang on, hang in there. The real story is the rope. In elementary school, we had a rope. And I'm telling you, this must be like 20 feet, 30 feet in the air. I mean, this is not a short rope. It goes all the way to the roof of the cafeteria, which was also where we had our gym. So our gym things that we did, right? So, I had problems climbing the rope. And I need to explain to you, my problem wasn't that I couldn't do it. Like, it wasn't, oh, I'm not physically strong enough to climb the rope. No. That was not the problem. You know, we had, you know, there was the fat kid, blah, blah, and, you know, everybody's, like, cheering him on. He makes it, like, a quarter of the way or something. You know, like, my problem wasn't like that. I wasn't overweight. I wasn't a bad climber. So I'm climbing the rope. And you know how you climb a rope, you get on it like this, you know, and then you have your legs intertwined around it. And this is Orion, by the way. So I'm climbing the rope. Every time I pull myself up, down in between my legs, I feel waves. Okay? Not a pain. The complete opposite of pain. Okay? We need a scientist. Are there any scientists in the house? So I'm climbing this rope and I'm like, oh, oh. And everybody else is like, you can do it, come on, Mitch, come on, you can do it. And I'm up there like, I'm like, oh, oh. I mean, it's like insane pleasure waves, okay, as I'm climbing this rope. And I made it to the top, but I'm pretty sure I was finished. I know, it's awful, right? I'm just wondering, I know this has happened to other people, and I'm wondering what it is. And I'm wondering if I climbed a rope now, if I would be that sensitive. Because for some reason, climbing a rope, that straddling action that you do, it just did it to me. And I don't know why. It was quite strange, and I didn't want it to happen, but that's why I had trouble climbing the rope at school. Like, if it wasn't for the waves of ridiculous pleasure every time I reached my arms up and pulled, I could have climbed that rope in like 10 seconds or less. I would have been like, it would have been simple. But no, it was more like, oh, oh. I know, it's probably horrible and disturbing to admit, but this is like elementary school, and I'm a kid, and this is true. This is real. This happened to me. So if anybody knows anything about this rope pleasureitis issue, please comment below. I'd love to read a paper on it if there's something that talks about it or discusses it. I think it's more common in women than men. But it happened to me, and I'm very much a man, trust me. And I'm proud of it. I don't mind being a boy at all. So if anybody ever questions that, I think like a lot of guys, I might be curious, it's funny because that made me think of Rick and Morty, and the one dad's like, well, sure, everyone's been curious. I'm like, yes, your curiosity about being a woman. Hey, everybody's, I think it's normal to have a curiosity, but as far as being a man, I'm proud of it. So that's the end of that story. That was the tree and the rope, my climbing stories, guys. All right, number 2 is a hard one. This is going to be my history as a kid with computers and the internet. This is very nerdy. I'm going to try to breeze through it a little bit, but see, I was born, I was born July 7th, 1982. So I was around before the internet, okay? My first, and I want to share this because I just think it's interesting, and there are some funny things to talk about. Okay, I promise. I've thought this through. My first computer was I believe a DOS computer. It was a monochrome monitor. It was actually like yellow text, and it locked you into the operating system. I was like 5 or 6 years old, guys. Okay, so you need to give me some slack here, trying to remember every little detail. But that was my first computer. We didn't own it. It was actually owned by Helping Wheels. My mom has polio, and she was a member of Helping Wheels. And she printed their newsletters out. So it had Print Shop Pro or whatever on it, whatever version existed in DOS, whatever back then. And you would select what you wanted to do. I learned how to exit to the command prompt, and I found out that there was a programming language on the computer called GW Basic. So if anybody wants to look that up, you might be able to figure out what error I'm talking about. But my first experience with programming on a computer was in GW Basic, and I made little RPGs and stuff. I wish I could pull up some of the text-based stuff that I created as a kid. Think about that. I was programming, and I was like, I couldn't have been more than 7 years old at the most. You know what I mean? Like 6, 7 years old. That was my first computer. But it wasn't really my own computer, But it was my first experience with it. I had my parents get me a Commodore 64. Yes, a Commodore 64 computer system. From the Zern's flea market. There was the Commodore guy there. And me and Danny nerded up with the Commodore 64, playing all kinds of old things. Some of my there was like a movie monster construction set game that I really liked, and Um, there was Murder on the Mississippi, which was a really cool game that I used to like on that as well. Now, probably around this same time frame when I was in elementary school was my first experience with computers as well, interlinked, so to say, where we had our Apple IIe. Yeah, we had a bunch of Apple IIes. That's what we had in our elementary school. And we played Oregon Trail, which was such a good game. I can beat it now easily as an adult, but as a kid, I had a hard time beating that game. It was all about getting the gun and shooting the animals. Seriously, that was the fun of Oregon Trail back in the day as a kid. All gathered around the computer. There were a whole bunch of us kids gathered around the computer, shooting deers and stuff, playing Oregon Trail, and dying and leaving gravestones. Good times, good times. My other game that I really liked was actually The Adventures of Lois and Clark, which you'd have to really try to search for that one, but it was on Apple IIe, and you would actually trade with Indians. You'd trade them beads and stuff to get food and stuff, and it was about you'd have to make it through the journey of Lewis and Clark to win the game. I don't know if I ever won that game, but I love that game. So let's get away from Apple IIe. Let's get away from all that. Commodore 64 and all that. My first computer was a Pentium 100 megahertz. Okay. Tom, who was one of the handicapped people in Helping Wheels, he actually built it for us. I begged my mom. I said, Mom, I want a computer. I want an IBM compatible blah, blah, blah computer. So this is my DOS computer with Windows 3.1. My baby. I eventually upgraded to a Diamond Stealth video card with, I believe, 4 megs of RAM. Great. I bought my first ever game, which was, it was either, I think I might have bought 2 at once. I bought the Castle of the Wind, which if you Google it, you can find that game right now and you can play it. It's a bunch of icons that run around killing things and going on a journey and doing stuff with your inventory. Castle of the Wind was my first game, as well as Lunicus, which was my first CD-ROM interactive game. And I plan on doing a full playthrough of Lunicus because I want you guys to see it. Because I went out there and spent $5 from the bargain bin at Walmart to get Lunicus, okay? It just stands out in my mind and means so much to me. So I want to share that with you guys. It's a fun little game. And it's hard to make it work in a modern computer. Really hard. It uses video for Windows 1.0, and it is not upwards compatible. That game is only compatible with Windows 3.1, okay? But I've made it work. I've found a way. Anyways, moving on from that, later on, after all that, my first internet was Prodigy, which has the instant message guy that's instant message. If you do a search, you might be able to find it on YouTube. Search for, like, Prodigy Instant Message. You'll get the instant message. And this is my first foray into the internet. It was actually not at my house. It was at my sister's boyfriend's. And I was up all night playing around on the internet, chatting. It was just chat services. And this is where the comedy aspect comes in, because I discovered that men are really into these 18-year-old girls. And I'm young, I'm probably like 9, 10 years old, And basically, I'm just chatting them up like, hey guys, I got boobies and this and that. And they're all like, oh. And I'm chatting with all these guys, for hours, all night long. And I'm just like young little boy talking to these guys, acting like I'm a girl. It was so much fun. And it's so wrong when I look back upon it that I did these things. But it was fun. My first internet that I had was actually, for me, like, I convinced my mom to get WoW. It was called WoW. It was an internet service from CompuServe called WoW. It was basically the beginnings of the internet where, like, you didn't just log in and have a web browser and start searching. It was more like the internet was an application. So when you log in through WoW, it was all colorful and graphical, and, like, you would click to go to forums and stuff like that. But it was all, like, locked into place in the same way that America Online was, but with more graphics to it. So it was just a fun experience back then with the internet and meeting people and talking. That's really what it was for me in the beginning, like that. Because, our internet sucked back then. We didn't have much. I always wanted to use imagination. Imagination was actually, I believe, DOS-based, and it had areas that you would go to. So it was graphical, and you would go to this area for this internet thing, and this area for this internet thing. And it was almost like you were going places. I love how we treated the internet back in the day when it was in its infancy. It was so special and so new. It wasn't like it is today, where you click in and it's like, oh, I'm just going to go to websites. I'll go to Facebook. Now it's just that. But back then, it was new territory. You know, I went on to having America Online for a very long time. Wound up playing a lot of games through that, like Simutronics had the Dragon Realms game, which I played for years of my life. Then I went on to EverQuest and a bunch of other things that are nerdy, like MUDs, multi-user dungeons. Well, that was probably a little bit pre-EverQuest, but still. So that, I think we're going to end it with that before I go ranting and raving into all kinds of other things. But that's my history of computers, starting more so from the beginning for people that want to know. Not the most interesting story, I know. They can't all have police in them, okay? They just can't. Ow! Oh, cat's biting me. Alright, let's go with number 3 here. First time, Wacky TB. There we go. Now we're going to the good place. Again, as I've said before, if you're watching this in a certain order, I don't do Wacky TB. It's probably been about 5 or 6 years since it has been. Like, it's been a long time. And, you know, it sucks because I would like to do some every now and then. You know, I'm not a one of those guys that has a problem or anything like that. You probably see me and think I do, but I don't. But the first time is interesting. And you can blame Jesse for this one, because Jesse was always a wacky kind of guy. I was actually DJing at the club. So this is old. I'm old at this point. You know, I'm driving a car around, doing my thing, you know, going to the nightclub, playing music, you know what I'm saying? I never did it because I was just kind of like, I shouldn't do this, it's wrong, you know, blah, blah. It was embedded in us that doing these things are wrong, you know. And I've gotten to a point where if it's a plant and it grows out of the ground, I kind of think it's wrong to say you can't grow a plant out of the ground. It's unconstitutional. You try to tell that to our founding fathers, they'd be pissed off, right? Am I right? Tell me I'm wrong. Anyways, I got done DJing at the nightclub, and Jesse was having a party at his place, okay? And we're talking party. Like, anything goes. We're out in the middle of nowhere, and I bring my DJ set up there. So I'm already, you know, a few beers in here and there, and I had some more there. And I'm there playing, and Jesse comes up to me with the thing, and he's like, yo, man, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all right. So first time ever, right there, DJing at my friend's party. And I am obliterated from this. I mean, I am just... My mind is gone. I played the same song like 6 times in a row. And I didn't know I was doing it. But I kind of do in retrospect, but at the same time I didn't. I was just gone, man. So... When I left Jesse's place, and this is not, I don't want you to think there's anything bad going on, you know, this is nothing crazy, I'm not driving. There's this diner nearby, and I go there a lot at night, you know, to the diner to have a burger. I would get the burger deluxe or whatever with the fries, you know. So I go and I walk in, and I must have looked slammed, you know, because she's like, you okay? I'm like, oh, I'm fine, I'll have the pizza burger deluxe and the blah blah blah. And then I pull out a book. Yes, I pull out a book, and I'm looking at it, blinking, because I always would read a book as I'm waiting for my food, even though it doesn't take long. So I'm reading the book, and believe it or not, I managed to read. I know I ate the food and all that stuff, and then I woke up the next day. So this is the great part. I wake up the next day, and I'm like, I didn't pay for my food. I don't remember paying for my food. Did I pay? Oh my god, I left without paying for my food. Now, that's not me. I'm not that guy. So I return that day, and I go back and I'm like, I left last night and I didn't pay for my meal, and it was an accident. Like, I'm sorry. and I gave her. I always tip a lot, anyways, after these DJ gigs, but I gave like a good $20 tip for like a $6 burger, and I left it there with them and paid, and I said, I'm so sorry. I never meant to do this. It was an accident. I had a little too much to drink that night, and I just I'm so sorry. Very embarrassing moment. This is one of the more embarrassing moments in my life, and it happened, of course, that first night. Ay, 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 ay. I feel bad about that one, but I made it right, so it's okay. All right, one more story. We have time for one more. Oh man, am I putting this one on here? Let's delete it. It was the first time that I ever made love. First time I ever made love. We're not talking about this, are we? I think this is like a personal, private thing. Well, first of all, I'm not telling you who with. I'm not going to do that. That would be horrible, right? Well, you got to understand that as an 18 or so year old guy, which actually I was probably more like 20. It's embarrassing, yes. I was DJing with my then girlfriend, and I had never done it before, so I was scared out of my mind, but she was ready. You know what I'm saying? And Joey was there, and I was like, because you were making out and kissing and this and that, and I'm like, hey, Joey, you're going to have to take over for me. You know how to use this, right? And I'm like, here, Joey, here's the DJ stuff. I'll be back. So we go out, and I have a van, and that was the first time I made love. Yep, that's it. So special. It's horrible, isn't it? I mean, when you're a kid, or even a young man like that, I was an adult at the time. Like, where are you gonna go? You could rent a hotel room, and actually, I probably had the money to do something like that. But this is like spur of the moment stuff, and hey, it happened. It happened. I lasted like 5 seconds. No joke, no lie. It was terrible, but it was definitely an amazing experience making love for the first time. Had no idea what I was in for, and then when it happened, it was like, oh my god, this is amazing. But I've never been that kind of guy that is like, I need to have this, or I need to have this, and I never was since that, like, I'm kind of easygoing. Like, I'm not like this guy that's like, oh, I need to do this, I need to make love all the time. It's kind of like, I'd rather play EverQuest. I'm a nerd first, before a lover, I'm sorry. But that was it, that was my first time. Anyways, I don't want to go into any more details than that, because that's personal and private stuff, but let's just say that I've been DJing for so long that it happened to come into play during that same time period. I'm sorry, Joey. Thanks for watching the mixer for me. Hope you played good music while I was gone. Anyways, that's it, guys. That's my stories for Mitchy's Stories number 2. I know it's probably a little bit longer. Hopefully it wasn't super boring because, again, there weren't police in it, I know, and crazy arrests or whatever going on. Peace out, you guys. Later.